Have you ever experienced a moment where you thought you expressed yourself clearly, but the response you got showed complete misunderstanding? They didn't get it. Communication isn't just about speaking, it's about ensuring that what we say is precise, logical, and it's received as intended. In my career of over 30 years, I've drafted tens of thousands of emails and letters, done hundreds of presentations, and led countless meetings. And early on, as I prepared for those, I learned the importance of thinking critically about the message that I want to get across in my communication. So I could be sure that the reader or the hearer received the message that I was intending to send. Today, I want to explore how critical thinking can sharpen our ability to communicate effectively. Before we dive into communication, though, let's define critical thinking. According to the Foundation for Critical Thinking, and yes, there is such a thing, who knew? At its core, critical thinking is the ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information objectively before expressing it. It involves these key components: observation, interpretation, inference, explanation or analysis, and self regulation, controlling our emotional reaction to things. So, why does it matter? Think of situations, whether at work or at home, your personal life, where poor communication caused confusion or even conflict. When we engage in critical thinking, we can we can do ourselves a huge favor by engaging in critical thinking and preventing misunderstandings. By structuring our thoughts, taking the time to structure our thoughts before we speak, identifying biases that could affect our message, strengthening our ability to persuade and reason logically. Does what we're trying to communicate really make sense? Am I wording this in the best possible way to elicit the response that I'm looking for? A simple example is imagine you're sending an email requesting some information, but you've really, in your request, you've given the reader no handles to grab onto, if you will, to really understand what are you really asking for here? What are you wanting? So it's vague. And then the recipient misunderstands your request, which when you think about that in the context of your work and productivity, now you've created a situation where that demands rework. You've got to rework the communication to clarify, to provide more understanding. And so it's also duplicative work because now you're doing this work again, but trying to be more clear. Whereas if you'd taken the time to critically think before sending the email, it would have only been one and done, and would have achieved hopefully the intended response. So ultimately, clarity of communication is good for productivity. It saves money ultimately. But I love this quote from Brene Brown, who said, "Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." I think we owe it to ourselves, and it'll help us so much. And we owe it to others to be kind and to be clear in our communication. But even when we try to be clear, barriers can get in the way. Some common ones include our assumptions and our biases. They can come through loud and clear. We sometimes assume that others know what we mean instead of articulating our thoughts. In my work, we run into that a lot because we deal a lot with acronyms. If you deal with any government programs, there are millions of acronyms for everything. And so, but not everybody lives in it the way I do every day. And so they don't know what I'm talking about when I throw out an acronym here or an acronym there. We have to be clear and take into consideration who are we addressing, who's our audience, and I don't want to assume that they know. But also think about biases. And I like this quote from Dennis Turish. When we communicate with other people from a standpoint of individual bias, we're failing to recognize the other person as the unique human being he or she is, with all the positive and negative qualities which constitute their own individual personality. Clear is kind. It's valuing of people for us to take the time to ensure clarity of communication. One of the other common challenges is a lack of thought organization. We just don't take the time to organize our thoughts. And that leads to unclear communication. A big one can be also emotional interference. Are we frustrated? Are we angry? Did we get set off by something in an email we received? So we're going to fire back really fast without really thinking and taking a beat. By applying critical thinking, though, we slow ourselves down. We can regulate our emotions. We question our assumptions and our biases, and we can structure our ideas to eliminate those out of the equation. In applying critical thinking to your communication, ask why. Ask how. Be curious. Instead of taking statements at face value, dig deeper for logical foundations. Why is that the case? How does that work? Help me understand. Use structured thought models. Organize and structure your thoughts logically. Do they make sense? Are they going to make sense to whoever is reading your message or hearing your message? And then also consider other perspectives. Look at it like the prism, where it changes colors as you move it around in the light, and you see things a little bit differently. Recognizing different viewpoints enhances understanding and eliminates bias. Also, pause before reacting. Take a minute. Take time to reflect. Don't react, so that you can ensure your response is thoughtful rather than impulsive. For example, imagine we're in a team meeting and we're discussing ways to improve patient access to primary care. Someone says, we just need more clinics in underserved areas. Well, this may sound like a solution. Critical thinking stops to ask, why? How? Why do we think we need more clinics in underserved areas? How would it work? So we might ask the question, or to clarify the need, we might think about how expanding clinics may help, but we first have to assess whether there are other dynamics at play. Maybe there's staffing shortages, maybe there's insurance barriers, or maybe there's transportation limitations. Maybe those things are the real bottlenecks. but also the how. Define feasibility. We got to think about the feasibility of this thing. How will additional clinics be funded, staffed, and maintained long term? And then considering other perspectives. Are there alternatives? Can we extend hours at our current clinics? Does that make more sense to do? Can we stagger our staffing to accommodate that? Do we have mobile health options available? By applying critical thinking, the recommendation evolves from this vague idea into a well-reasoned, actionable solution, resulting in clearer communication and better decision-making. Just some practical applications in both your personal and your professional life for critical thinking when it comes to communication. Send clear emails. Give precise instructions. Lead effective meetings. In your personal life, this can help you resolve conflict and even be more persuasive in conversations and in trying to help people or draw people into your opinion or your idea of how you see something. But also active listening. When we engage in active listening, we can think critically and formulate an intentional response rather than an emotional response. So a couple of key takeaways. First, critical thinking is the foundation of clear communication. Being intentional, secondly, about our thought organization can go so far in preventing misunderstandings and misinterpretation. Clear communication starts with thoughtful, critical reasoning. We have to challenge our assumptions. We have to challenge our biases. Take the time, make the investment to structure your thoughts and approach communication with purpose, with intentionality. So I'll leave you with this one question. Consider, what's one action you'll take today to enhance clarity in your communication? In the slide deck, I do share the references at the end. You'll get a copy of the slide deck if you want to take advantage of those. Thank you so much.